Well, good morning as we're sitting here at LTV on this beautiful morning, Friday morning, November 22nd, year 2024, here with the Hello Hello Show. And my name is Haim Mizrahi, continuing with the tradition of public access and the tradition of the Hello Hello Show that's been on there since 1980. Of course, not to fail to mention the contribution by Fraser Dougherty, Francis Ann, and then, of course, the likes of you out there and make it your business to enhance and fortify the concept of public access, rightfully so, as we kind of get together with the idea of this wonderful availability that puts us in the center stage. And not only that, it's the center stage that we ourselves created. And in addition to the fact that even if you were to just adamantly show up here, there's a stage ready for expression and whatnot. And uh, the beautiful thing about this whole concept of having this concept thrive and be available to serve the needs of the community, even though the needs that the community itself is not still aware that there is a need, but instinctively and automatically we find ourselves very useful in the center stage of available expression. I mean, with the right to express yourself in the fashion and the way that you choose to do it. And that's what we do here at LTV. All the participants, the producers, all the staff, and the whole idea is thriving as we speak, uh, as things are in motion, and as the station caters to the needs of the community as much as it caters to the Constitution, because it's a part of what the First Amendment and there's so much more is all about, available and accessible. So yeah, I was thinking, I was thinking to myself about my journey here at LTV and my journey here as a host of this show called the Hello Hello, and of course it goes hand in hand with the energy and the vision and the dream and the hard work put in place by Fraser Dougherty, the founder of LTV, or at least I should say maybe the initiator, because he had so much help, so many people that were just there that needed no convincing of the importance of the station and the concept itself. But still, Fraser Dougherty was second to none when it came to resilience and selflessness. I mean, the guy was all over the place. The guy was in 50 different places at the same time. The guy was always available when it came to catering to the needs of the station, creating the station to begin with, starting from his own garage or kitchen in East Hampton in the late 70s, early 80s. And that's when I found myself engaged in this concept and becoming aware, even though where I come from, originally the public access wasn't alien to me, it was available. As a matter of fact, in my town, in my city, the, the, the municipalities actually encouraged people to wire their own independently while the city was getting ready to provide uh, and make that public access entity happen and come to life. But they knew it's going to take 1, 2, or 3 years until this becomes available. So they encouraged the local residents of neighborhoods to wire their homes from one to another and gave and provided some help, technical help for that to happen. But for the most part, it was on the behalf of the residents that the public access was thriving. So when I came to the States, I knew of this concept, but I didn't know enough that okay, I'm going to look for public access or see if it exists here, and if it does, then what the nature behind that concept is. It was actually the other way around that my friend came to me and said, spoke something about LTV I never heard of it, and this was like 84. And by 85, 86, I was already a part of LTV. In more ways than one, it was like it's like a no brainer, like an instant second nature. I loved every moment of that engagement, as I do today, and also loved to spend time with Fraser. That was, let's say, okay. So we're gonna do this. So as much as Fraser was the dauntingly challenging individual, um, one can learn a thing or two from him. So as we used to have like breakfast every morning, I used to listen to the same things until I realized that he doesn't have to say much because when he speaks of his passion towards public access, it really sounds like pearls. It really sounds like you understand different things every time you hear the same thing from him. So now I'm sitting here. That's a show that he did from 1980 to 1997, 98. And this is my breakfast, piece of chocolate. Mm, needed it. So for almost 20 years he did that. And then I remember when he came, I was a guest on this show, in the early 90s and through the 90s. So when he approached me to ask me to take over the show, it was, um, I was surprised. Never thought of myself, because until that time, from 84, 85 to 97, I was a producer here. And I did shooting and night tapes. The whole idea of night tapes from midnight to 2 o'clock or 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. There were 4 hours of local issues, local activities, local music, and I used to submit 2 hour tapes of my engagements with the uh, mu- music community and the musical activities and all these performances, jam sessions. So when he approached me, I said, and that was a show that was live 7 a.m. every morning, 7 days a week. And so I turned to him and I said, "Do you really expect me to take this show? That's like insane. It's insanely difficult." That's how I perceived it to be. That's how I perceived it to be. Like, that's a lot of work. Being a producer is one thing, you can choose your own battles. But here's day in and day out. He said, "Believe me," that's what Fraser told me. "Believe me, I did not approach anyone. I did not discuss it with anyone. I didn't offer it to anyone before I came to see you because I knew you probably the only one out of all the people that I know that if you will say yes, that I can be confident that indeed you're going to follow through the task and and do it. I know you're going to show up in the morning. I know you're going to do it." So I was thinking and thinking and thinking, and then I said yes, and I jumped into it quickly enough after you offered it to me because I thought, if I'm going to dwell for too long, I'm going to lose steam, and then my rationale will become stronger and stronger, and that, it will tell me not to do it. Don't do it. I mean, don't do it. As I am a house painter here in this community for many years, I'm kind of was accustomed to this. If I do work for you, I can expect to be paid. It can be a little bit of money or a lot of money. I can give you the highest price in the world or the best price you will ever get. But still, you want to feel like you're getting paid for your work. And after all, for me, in those early years, uh, even after being involved with LTV for almost next to 15 years, then before I took this show, the Hello Hello show over, uh, I was still not as determined and as comfortable with that level of commitment as I do today, as I am today. But when I decided to take it, I did. And then I frighteningly became very devoted very quickly. And I say frightened is because I got scared that my involvement with this show deepened my connections and relations and reality and life with LTV abruptly. And wow, went like wow, like this. I wasn't sure I was ready for this, but I accepted it because I had my instincts that kind of doing most of the work for me. My kind of instincts and those that are trying to serve as my defense mechanism, and those are that are serving as the challenging factors in my life. So I accepted it, and here we are, 27 years later, 5 to 6,000 shows, almost 6,000 shows, many, many, many thousands of interviews, and it speaks for itself, and you stop counting, and you stop being too anal about it, and and that's it, and you're willing to interview everything that moves and anything about any subject matter. You don't need to be ready or prepared and all this because you're always ready, and that's how it is. And that's how it is also with this system here at LTV. It caters to the community. There are no preferences here. There are no uh, uh, you know uh, what is it? Uh, Nothing is driven by anything other than what really public access stands for, and that's the best thing about LTV. That indeed it got this. Its source is clean and pure, and really genuinely um, uh, balanced, focused, and and that this particular fact makes me happy to know that that's the case. Also to know from my end that I'm involved with it and that I'm here almost every day. I don't say that I do it 7 days a week, but sometimes I do. But but at least 5 times a week, and I'm in a point where I'm actually trying to step back as much as I can lately because the involvement is so deep, and I really don't feel like I need to think too much about what it is that I'm going to do when it comes to an interview or just a monologue like I sit here. I I think that I have the ingredients to make the um, any encounter and any interaction work, for the duration. And the duration is 1 hour. We have 1 hour every morning and 1 hour every day, and sometimes 2 hours. And it's just like a great, wonderful becoming of many becomings that create that wonderful, uh, uh, intimate whole, WHOLE, of yours as a producer, as a speaker, as a motivator, as an artist, as things of this nature. But yesterday, and that's what I wanted to share with you. I did. Um, I don't necessarily. Yes, yes. My broken, my broken glasses, but still unbelievable. I feel like an old man doing this. Oh boy. Oh boy. We're gonna do this. This is just sharing from. Oh, yeah. This is from. This I would call probably reservational poetry. Um, and I was thinking 2, 3, 4. Oh, really, man, already. No. Oh no, I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want that. I want. Uh, really, really. Let's see, but where is it? Okay, fine. You know what? Step three, step two, step one. You know. Um, so um, I don't know if I should say reality is unfolding within us as we're in this constant attempt to make ends meet, to feel good about ourselves, and get just the basic, just the right amount of justification to why we're doing what we're doing and how well we're doing, and whether it's justified or not, whether we're continuing or not. Even though there's a given in our lives as determined individual, creative individuals, we still need now and then a periodical convincing that indeed what we're doing is the right thing to do, because we don't want to just do it for the sake of the concept. We want to be able to thrive and to survive. Because if we won't take care of all the needs that we identify that we have in our artistic life, it won't last for long. That's a given. So it's like you take like metaphors like the jewel maker, you know, and then you feel like there's a blast from the jewel maker. You create any image in your mind. It doesn't matter really what it is. It doesn't matter whether it makes sense or not. That's not the point. That's where I see many, many talented people, artists fail when they always want that 100% go ahead stuff type of like, go ahead. You're good to go. Whatever, whether it's a voice, a sound, a that's telling you, okay. And they will not accept anything less than 100% go aheadness. But that's not uh it's, it's like there's a barrel full of parcels that is shiny. And that's another image that you want to uh, use as a maybe a very constructive distraction in order to stabilize the excitement and the shakiness due to maybe uh, complacency. Just instant, it just it's 1 second of complacency. It's just being a human being. Then you realize maybe you are not ready. Maybe it's not the. Uh, maybe you're wearing the wrong uniform. If I if I may just describe it this way, and uh, like a stretch of head counting and head turning that leaves um, like like grass hopping and how do I want to say it, and sand blasting and how would they say, near the ovation of the blessed. Another image, you know what? See, the thing is, because if you have a point of reference, let's just say that I splatter and drip paint, like anyone can do, like Jackson Pollock did, with intent, without intent, with an image in my mind, or without, with a clear direction, or without, with a level of satisfying conviction, or without, with the subject matter pre existing, or without, you splatter and you drip. And you want to plant the seeds in the shape of applications and layers. That's what it is. If you're in the business of art the way I am in, you would want to accumulate layers, and you have zero tolerance for a one application, one layer scenario, and then declare it as a painting. I mean, then you can do whatever you want, and probably me and myself and the entire world would have to accept it as a viable piece of art, especially if you say it's good to go, it's done, it's accomplished, it's finished. But everyone will know better when they would have to kind of have a secondary occurrence. Uh, they most probably will see it in a different light, with different aspirations, with different enlightenments, with different discoveries. So these images and metaphors, if you can free yourself from the need to be convinced that indeed it means something, or it means something that most people can relate to and understand, it means something as far as its communicational value. So therefore, of course, you're better off having it available as opposed to not. And if you're thinking of another image, and I have to eat chocolate because it goes hand in hand with this weirdness. Yeah, the the horror stories that are they back the that which is favored in the quiet, and that becomes a very serious issue. And um, a brief talent flashing past, a brief talent flashing past. And another image, like a last spark in the hush. I mean, if you want to write down this, for example, this sentence, a a last spark in the hush, Hush, like a freeing thing in itself, and you quickly start discussing the gaps that you brought with you into the equation of this interaction. You yourself in you, quiet, or in front of 10,000 people, one and the same. And since you already know this fact, then you're ahead of yourself a great deal. You can get away with murder. You can literally make as many mistakes as you want. You earn so much credit that you can get away with it. But of course, that's not the place where we want to find ourselves in. We don't want to benefit from savings. We don't want to benefit from the fact that just because we have a certain amount of money put away in, that our future is guaranteed to be ours the way we envision it to be. And that's not a realistic or smart way to look at it, because you stand to be able to lose a lot just to. So it's even if you approach an entity, anything, it can be anybody that will eventually, you will find out who, but you will still speak about that somebody, and about your encounters with that somebody, and you start stating, if you only have told me, and that's already when the sameness increases. And I like to use the language this way, saying the sameness increases. That's a great, wonderful combination of two words. Sameness increases. And that is to say that it's overlapping the truth as it ought to flash. The truth ought to be able to flash, because it's a big deal. It's a big thing. The truth is being told. And maybe there should be a declaration that's accompanying it. And flashing, that's high. uh, it's high through the barrier of a human shield. It exceeds that. And human shield is solid. It's solid. It's good. It's promising. It's constructive. It's a good thing. But now we're talking about like through higher than the barrier of a human shield. So we don't really need it, kind of thing. But it's just knowing this as a fact is good enough of a reason to just let it be without demolishing it or doing away with it. And so is there a lover waiting between these spaces? And those spaces also very imaginary. You can call it the treasure tending the gaps. And these gaps is the gaps you brought with you. So treasure tending the gaps. Brightening the closing words. Sounds good so far. And then quoting a brief reminder of love. Passionate love. That kind of love that shook the core of pleasure. And of course it should be able to do that. To shake the core of pleasure. And this pleasure is not yet known in the capacity of youth. So you want to kind of be fair to yourself in the process of give and take and discovery and expression and improving the ability to express and not taking it for granted that if you can express, then you express, and no matter how you express, it's viable, it's effective, and all this. There's always a good reason to try and do it better, even though you're not quite sure how it can be better because it's already so good. But you learn quickly enough that there's always room to improve, and it's always a good idea to seek that improvement. So, um, but then you find out that you actually did it with a sign of closure. And I don't know what this closure really means. It's and there was once a sentence that I wrote. I have to share it with you. Let's see if I can remember that. Again, you can use that for the next 100 short stories and 1,000 poems if you wanted to. Grasping the out, grasping the. You can write it down, by the way, if you have a pen. I'll say it a few times, but let me see. Grasping the outward news of the tempting sense of mustness. Grasping the grasping the outward news of the tempting sense of mustness. So right there, you got the grasping, you got youth, you got outward news. You can go back and forth with yourself about what outward news means and how it can be perceived. You come up with a lot of avenues. You better believe you will, because that's just a matter of fact. Grasp the outward news of the tempting sense of mustness, and this is called, actually, what I just said now, it's called the art of art erotically blending. Again, we're talking about images and we're talking about the freedom to just throw it out into the out there into the air, and without fear, without too much regard, because you already did your homework, you paid your dues. Remind yourself of that. So you're free. But this freedom comes with a price. The price is you have to toil in order to maintain it, in order to make sure that it works the way you desire for it to work, because obviously it's a device that needs to work to benefit your cause. So don't we cannot be fooled here, not even for a second. So it's called the art of art erotically blending, with suggesting that the comments limit the ability to come around and rephrase the closing of the hints. Are you kidding me? You speak of probably one of the longest sentence you have ever heard, even though I can think of many sentences that I wrote. One sentence that was longer than that. It would be like 4 or 5 liner kind of sentence that works as a one sentence. So uh, this grasp of the outward news of the tempting sense of massness, called the art of art erotic blending with suggestions from the comments, limit the ability to come around and rephrase the closing of the hints. By now, this closing of the hints they gathered with epidemics of highness fleeing the scene of blessed beard collectors for the sake of royalty, as it is nowhere to be found. I mean, you're talking about already 150 images that can serve and help your purpose and your cause, as far as being creative and going this path of creativity, this path of uh, whatever medium of art is available, or what you make available, or you choose one or more, and then the luxury of cross implementation. Are you kidding me? You know how much luxury resides within the ability to cross implement? That means you have more than one medium at your disposal, because you voiced your desire, you made your opinions known, you created enough to put on display some really impressive gatherings of art and music and poetry, and people cannot be mistaken any longer about you. They will know what they will know according to what they know, according to what you expose them to experience. And any attempt on their behalf to belittle you, or to downsize you, or to ridicule or mock you, will result in the same to themselves. They're going to be mocked and ridiculed by society, by a neighborhood, by a group of people that know better, because their IQ is up there in the 140s. You cannot play games with them. They're masters of common sense and logic. They're masters of seeing through those, that which is fake. Doesn't take long. And even if they continue business as usual, even after finding out the truth, it's probably because they want to get to a different level, to make sure that this encounter will yield many successes, not and many breakthroughs, not only one. So I mean, you're talking about limit the ability to come around and rephrase the closing of the hints. By now gathered with epidemics of highness fleeing the scene of the blessed beard collectors. Just the image of beard collectors, okay? It doesn't matter if it doesn't support any logic, because it's already out there. If it was a word that you've written, it's already a part of the infinity of the air. I mean, it's going nowhere because it's already everywhere. It will cater to that which you would want to decide to use at the point that you are in front of a canvas, or in front of a blank page to put a pen in your hand, or just whatever musical instrument that you're just about to initiate a melody or harmony. Clarity, self achieving clarity. What a joy. But that kind of takes us to a different level of awareness that's called uh, you want to rephrase. Let's just say the last 4 minutes of my description of these blocks of images that you manage to express, utilize, document, and feel just okay about it. Not derailed, not no self-imposed confusion or energy draining. You're doing things right, and it works for you. Rephrasing that, and now I'll be more adamant about this. Is something actually that I wrote that I'm going to read now, as opposed to my reflections just before. But it will relate to that second stage, that phase. Where did you set your heart? Was it somewhere in the folds? Between pauses? Small breaths where our words couldn't reach? I imagine you carrying fragments, each gap an inheritance, like shards of light split across walls. They lie, they lie waiting, patient as dust, for someone to notice, to lean close. You closed in on me with silence heavy and bold, as if to paint over the spaces that left unguarded. We loved through those gaps, brilliant flashes of hands, bodies, fingers weaving amongst us a tapestry of fractured connection, each thread as vivid as the last. And in the end, it was the spaces that held us, and not what we filled in. And immediately there's this image of the trace of the unsaid, or traces of the unsaid. Sorry. If you find yourself puzzled on the behalf of whatever, let's just say what I just read to you right now, can be like, okay, you know what? Even if I'm sure that can make sense, but it needs a level of investment of time and goodwill on the behalf of people like me to say, okay, I heard you, and I dug in, and it makes sense. Or saying, listen, I heard you. It sounded very appealing and good, but I didn't get the really the point altogether, and I'm not interested to dig in so deep. That would be okay also. It's called, self-preservation. It's called survival. So it now it you it finds you. That means you find yourself. It finds you. You find yourself is one and the same. As a trace of the unsaid, meaning knocking on the door of traces of the unsaid or trace of the unsaid, and if whichever and whatever it is that stands in front of you, you have to ask the question: did you sense it too? And it's all about the quiet. That usually quietness really hovers over something, over clinging like dust to the corners. You must admit that dust have a tendency to kind of gather in corners, and and uh, and quickly enough, it's gathering in a fashion that it ends up being beyond reach. And I don't know how good or bad it is, but it's just a matter of fact again, and we have to accept it at face value. So so we live in more than just one world, obviously, because we're creative individuals, and the images, the imagery, the metaphors, all this, create each one is to actually put uh, a world per word, a word per world. It's a nice game, but it's not a game. It's seriousness. A world per word, a word per world. That's like the that's over all the unmarked places. And But for some reason, even after all these engagements, you leave a lot of things untouched. And you're actually very curious on why and how so. Very intrigued by it also. Uh, like scattered ink on dry hands or something like that. Can you imagine ink on dry hands? Can you imagine having a chocolate that is so delicious, like I do now? Let me see. Um, mm, delicious. So you scattered ink on dry hands, and so in the marrow of absence, M-A-R-O, M-A-R-R-O-W, in the marrow of absence, then we find, you know, those brief flashes. They're very important, those brief flashes. Flashes are very important in that process of artistic growth. It's a pulse, like a erosion, soft erosion. And, you know, a passing gleam in the hollow. Gleam, a passing gleam in the hollow. And it was all really, you find out it was all there hidden, kind of in the restlessness that we all share, you know, and and the way that, and the way light, sometimes the way light lingers, you know, and but it never stays. It just lingers and but never stay. And what if we try to? What if we tried, according to all the changes, the advancing of a kind of long nail biting day? What if we then, slow, fancy, slim, grainy, like a vacant container or something of some sort, that you will collect the raindrops with it along the individual expression and the nose rubbing crave. Think about this as an image: nose rubbing crave. Nose rubbing crave. I mean, it can be friggin' a title for any art show, for any book, for any subject matter. It can be the first line of a poem. It can be a repetition liner in storytelling poetry. It can be so many things. So don't tell me you don't harbor within you the ability to just say anything that usually you would think it's stupid, because even you yourself don't understand what you just said. But you won't have the level of conviction to believe that this is just a part of what leads you to being a giant, to becoming great. Nothing wrong in having aspirations and expectation from yourself. Then on the behalf of your attempt and hard work will be uh, uh, justifyingly so uh, uh, hard-earned viable material that you should be have something to show for and be proud of. So, it's um, and so I know you have a hard time getting closer. Closer can be closer to people or closer to the idea of someone is interacting with you, speeching you, preaching you, and you never ever found a moment or an instance where you can say, well, maybe I should give him a chance or her a chance to hear a few sentences, something, an opening. It seemed like you always found yourself not accommodating, and you don't quite know why, which is acceptable. I can accept that. It's called the process of growth. And, but it still remains to be the love of the loving And that's not a play of words. The love of the loving. It's just so appealing. Gathering resolve at the melting top. A plea that's open to changes. And, you hang on to trust. Same like as if we were to say blind love. Once I thought that blind love is actually something negative. How can love be blind? How can you get to feel so much with being blindfolded? But anyway, of course, I understand things in a different magnitude nowadays. Lucky for me, I say. So that hierarchy is fulfilling needs, and these needs of the needs of the other that happens to be you. This is no play of words. This is real. It's real according to my own personal experience. Not like I say, oh, I discovered something. I didn't discover anything. I just experienced it because I did something. I was a part of a certain journey. It's all self-created and self-implemented. So, I I know it based on that, on my own personal feelings, and as I'm engaged in these processes of experimentation and openness and willingness to engage and so much more. Uh, and you become a delightful loner, because then that happens in multiple occasions. A delightful loner, write that down. Just a delightful loner. Okay, fine. Okay, you have it. That you have your work cut out for you. I'm sure you're going to do well with it. And but I would love to have someone who's residing in my face, all the possibilities, all the ways to not to take yourself seriously, but go be very serious about going about it, kind of thing. So that level of seriousness is just shifting from the actual feeling serious as far as you as a person, as opposed to feeling serious as far on how you go about achieving that. Okay, that, um, it's like the silver cup of zero tolerance. And in addition to that, uh, those thoughts and regards, they come together. And the issue already folded to therapy uses. Maybe self therapy. That's always a better idea than attending someone's office. And even though sometimes it can be a good idea, but maybe once or twice here and there. But these are kind of avenues of how should I say it? So okay, so there's a dry run, which I always love a dry run, and there's a I'm just trying to choose the right words to say that it's like a pillow with a promise that the dreams of the unable, the dreams of the unable, those dreams, they create a buffer, and this buffer is a way to observe deeper, really, more deeply. It's that simple. And there's some very constructive moments where you're gliding, you're literally gliding, and you take all this moisture seriously and start kind of de- dehumidifying that humidity, and uh, and 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 giving it a minute in the dryer, a real dryer, like clothes dryer, So you know what you're doing. You know that you're going to achieve your task before you start going about achieving your task, if you know what I mean. And I don't know if it's and by the way, and this really refers to a few sentences that I wrote together. And again, just by way of challenging myself, I need a long sentence now, regardless of what I'm talking about, regardless of what the subject matter is, regardless of what the metaphors in what quantity and quality and whatever other approach that they're taking place. It doesn't matter. What matters is the act itself, of the act itself, of the act itself, of the act itself. So these are the liners. Um, I dried and applied and glided to the open to join the presence. Slowly, I removed and twisted, tightened and acquired, adapted, slim shaved the extra hair of long lasting shadow to amount to the hero of silent traffic, cutting through the innocence of unavailability. It can be as pathetic as it is giant. And that's a good place to be. I'd like to be considered pathetic, and my work to be considered pathetic, as you express loyalty to the embarkment of this journey of deciphering, critiquing, anything. I have no problems with someone looking at me and saying, what I experienced here in those few seconds of entering this space, it feels pathetic. And well, and then you say, well, I should I thank this individual? Thank you so much. I thought nobody would ever say that to me, but that's awesome. No, you're not going to say that. You're just going to be patient without displaying your patience, without declaring your patience. You're just going to be patient. How so? Just by remaining there. People will come in and out. People will come and go and come, but you'll still be there every time they come and every time they leave. This is the answer. And and then, so this kind of earned me a title, squeeze tight ever so. And so I'm like literally thinking, okay, as far as let's see how much time we have left. We have about 5 minutes left, and and this is actually one of the latest. A welcome note. Soft spoken drive of self serving goodwill hiding with pride as you plot a curve, a right of ways, speech, and uttering belonging to the documentation of love, the selfless act, the dreamlike detachment, see through, a witness grinding teeth without waver, without a hint. Not a voice wish, not a voice to wish, but blending with moments owned by the literal, as it makes itself accessible, reachable, with a promise to shed. I've drawn already a silky boost. I've drawn already a silky boost from yesterday's intentions, materializing to fulfill a speech enrollment, a welcome note. Your name, most probably, is now as we speak a servant, royal, head turning, with nerve pinches, not stepping back this time. The pain stretches, accommodations, and a simple meal securing the rebound. as this will be the last time. Let me know. Let me know if you'd like further adjustments. Now you see, we don't aim to write poetry that will be considered the best poetry ever. We aim to write poetry, period. Writing poetry. And you within you and the spectator or the reader will bring it to the height that not the heart desire, but to the heights that this material, rightfully so, has the ability to. And by saying that and concluding, I want to thank you for being there and sharing with me your time and allowing me to be who I am and what I am and what this show and what this concept and what this wonderful stage and entity here at LTV has to show for. And wanted to share with you that indeed we're having a new art exhibition, 9 artists. We have Tim Rope, we have Juliana Lopez, we have Anahi De Cano, and we have Bob Sullivan, we have Josephine Worcestershire, we have Chris Luker, and we have who else do we have? Rima Goldberg, and myself, your humble servant, Haim Mizrahi. And who else? Am I missing anyone? I don't think I'm missing anyone. One, two, three, four, five, six. Yes, of course. Marjorie Wright. Thank you. Um, Here through the month of through December 31st, this show is going to be up. Next weekend, Saturday, November 30th, from 3:30 to 6:30, we have an opening of this wonderful group show. We would be more than happy to see you attending. We're going to be here tomorrow as much as we were here yesterday and as much as we're here this morning. As I said, Friday morning, November 22nd, year 2024, here with the Hello Hello Show. And my name is Haim Mizrahi, thanking you and wishing you a wonderful Thanksgiving to come. I love it. I love it. I love it. I thought maybe a minute with Frank Zappa. Shut up and play your guitar. I love that. Oh, I love that. Oh, yeah, yeah. Let's enjoy.